So today we are joined with our friends at RetailNZ to provide you this drop-in clinic. So our talanoa today is basically to discuss the new COVID protection framework, employee vaccinations, and the vaccination passes. I just like to make this very clear that our session today is 1 hour, but majority of it will be focused on your questions. So if now, because we have these experts from RetailNZ on the call, we ask that you please make use of this opportunity to ask any questions that you may have, either through the chat, and we can touch on these questions at the end of the session, or if you had any questions on the content while our facilitators are presenting, please raise your hand and just unmute and fire your question away. Other than that, I think because we have a limited time today, I'll probably pass it on now to our friends at RetailNZ to kick us off with the content. And yeah, hope everyone enjoys today's session and takes out at least one useful thing from our session today. Thank you again for joining us. I will stop sharing my screen now. So Nigel or Greg can see his. Are you able to?
Yep, I'm all set to go. So, look, I've just got a few slides to talk through, but first of all, I just want to thank you for having the RetailNZ team here with you tonight. We're really pleased to share what we know about the new regulatory framework for retail and the traffic light system, and hope that the information we've got will be really useful to you and your whānau and colleagues as you navigate the next few days. So look, I've got a few slides which I will run through. If I can get this to go ahead here. Sorry, apologies. So in a sense, we're here simply to talk about opening your shop and how to do that safely in the new COVID-19 environment. Since we last came and talked to people at the Pacific Business Trust a few weeks ago, things have changed. We've moved very much from what was alert level 3.2, where retailers were just allowed to be open or just starting to be open. Then we moved into this slightly unusual position where barbers and hair salons were allowed to open, but nothing else. As from Friday, or at least Thursday night at midnight, we'll be moving into the new traffic light system. So in Auckland, you will be at red. Through the central North Island, you'll be at red, and in Northland, you'll be at red, but the rest of the country will be at orange status. So our hope is that we'll manage to progress down the traffic light levels over the next few weeks. The government has said that it will review the rules that apply in 2 weeks' time. So we'll be hoping that we can all step down to orange, but that's going to depend very much, I think, on the uptake of vaccinations around the country, and also, of course, around the spread of COVID, and just everyone's hoping that things will be relatively under control as we migrate the next few weeks. So I'm here really just to talk to you tonight about the red traffic light system and what that means. So most importantly for everyone here, there is provision for all businesses to open at alert level red. Retail stores can open at this level, but there are capacity limits that apply. So there's a maximum number of people you can have in your retail business. That is determined by the size of your premises. If you have a 100-metre site, you can have 100 people in store. You have to allow 1 metre for every person. For general retail, for a shop, there is no requirement to use the new vaccination pass system. There seems to be, I think, quite a lot of confusion about that in the media and in the market. But if you're a general retailer, you do not need to use the vaccine pass. Anyone can come into your shop, although you can choose to implement the vaccine pass system if you wish to do so. If you're a hospitality business or a food and beverage business, you are able to open, but you need to use the vaccine passes for your customers if you want to have people come onto your premises. If you choose not to use vaccine passes, you're not allowed to have people come into the cafe. You need to operate contactlessly and can only do click and collect or takeaway services. The vaccine pass applies for hospitality, and you can have up to 100 people on premises, again based on that 1 metre distancing rule. If you're a close contact service, if you're a hairdresser, a barber, a tattoo studio, a beauty service, something like that, again, you can be open at alert level red, or sorry, traffic light level red, but you do need to use those vaccine passes. Again, gyms also can open, but you do need a vaccine certificate. You need to use the vaccine certificate system. The most important point to note is if you are a business that needs to use the vaccine pass system, you need to see the pass on the customer's phone or on their piece of paper. You are required to scan a certain number of them using the app that's available online, but there isn't real clarity at this stage from government about how many you need to scan. We're being told you need to scan a reasonable number to verify that they are genuine passes that are being used, but there's no absolute certainty around what that means. So our recommendation is probably to have a system that allows you to scan everyone easily as they come in or as they pay at the counter, but it is not actually necessary that you scan every certificate every time someone comes into your business. One thing that you may want to know is that if a member of the public has not been vaccinated, they will not be able to get a vaccine pass. That's quite important to note. So in theory, the only people who should have them are people who have legitimately been vaccinated. In terms of face coverings continue to be compulsory. You have to wear masks when you're in retail stores and taxis or public venues. The same goes, I think, wandering into a hospitality venue. If you're going into a cafe, you should be wearing a mask, but you are obviously allowed to take your mask off in order to eat or drink your coffee. There are also restrictions on the number of people at any gathering. So if you are hosting a gathering in your business or at your church marae or even in your home, you do need to use vaccine passes, and you can have a limit of up to 100 people at any one event. So those are the key points about the sort of the red traffic light system. The other thing we did want to draw to your attention was rules around markets. No, markets are important in the Pacifica community, and markets can operate at red, but only with retail stalls. So you're not allowed to have other experiences, other services on offer. They need to be retail stalls only. So a food stall, for example, could operate at a market, but perhaps not a hospitality store. Again, those face coverings are mandatory, and all businesses right through the traffic light system, while we're in this COVID alert status, all businesses need to continue to display QR codes for tracking and tracing for contact tracing purposes. So your customers need to be able to scan, and using the Tracer app on their phone to record where they've been. It's not compulsory that you enforce that, but it is a good idea to ask your customers. Now, I know there has been quite a lot of confusion about the contact tracing app and the vaccine pass system. The vaccine passes are not part of the contact tracer app. They're separate systems. They don't interact at all. That's a decision the government has made around privacy. They want to try and preserve people's privacy. So that if you are using a vaccine pass in your business, there's a separate app you need called the New Zealand COVID Verifier app, which is available from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. And that will allow you to scan customers' QR codes, and the only information you'll get is whether the pass is valid and genuine or not. So, as I say, the vaccine pass is now available. Many customers will have them. It is important to note, again, I can't stress enough that it's not required in retail. You can implement it if you want to, but you're not required to do so. But if you're a hairdresser, barber, beauty spa, tattoo studio, or a cafe, you will need to have the system in place in order to open your doors to the public. Thought I'd move on from here and talk about vaccine mandates. There's still a question for many businesses about whether they should be requiring their employees to be vaccinated against COVID-19. The government has passed legislation, or is in the process of passing legislation, to put a simplified vaccination assessment tool out there for businesses to use. It will be available within the next couple of weeks to help you decide whether you need your employees to be vaccinated. There are 4 key factors, at least 3 of which must be met before it would be thought reasonable to require your staff to be vaccinated. If you've already done a risk assessment in your business, you don't need to change anything, but there is this new system that's available for you to make some calls. You can choose how you do your risk assessment, whether you use the standard framework or something else. But whatever you do need to go through a process of consulting your employees about what they think before you make a final decision. So the 4 criteria that are in this new vaccine assessment tool that the government has put in place are really 4 questions. What type of environment is the worker in? Is it a small indoor space, less than 100 metres, or is it outside or in a bigger area? How close does the person work to other people? How long are workers in proximity to other people? And does the worker provide services to people who are vulnerable to COVID-19? So in your average retail environment, you may well be at a higher risk if you've got people who are close up with customers, or are working in a relatively small shop, or if you have a retail environment where there's quite long interactions with the customers, perhaps a shoe store or something like that. If you have lots of people who are vulnerable to COVID-19, if you have lots of unvaccinated people, or you have elderly people in your community, or the immune compromised, that is also a factor. If there are people who are likely to be particularly at risk of COVID, that's something you need to be thinking about when you go through your vaccination assessment. If you go through this and you conclude that 3 of these 4 questions are in the higher risk camp, the government's view is that you can reasonably assume that it's sensible for you to be thinking about a vaccine mandate. If not, then it's probably not quite as urgent as that, but you may still wish to do so depending on other factors that you need to think about that are specific to your business. So that was really just a very quick overview of the new traffic light system. I'd be very happy to take any questions that anyone might have.
We have one question in the chat. Can we small home-based businesses operate from home? The person is a custom-made garment business.
Yes. Yes. So where you operate from is not relevant to the new traffic light system. So if you operate a business from home, you can carry on doing that, but you do need to be aware that if you meet the requirements for a vaccine pass, if you're perhaps a hairdresser or a tattoo operation being done from home or something like that, you will need to still scan your customers' vaccine passes and see them, and your staff will also need to be vaccinated as well if you are a close contact business. A garment manufacturer, I think, probably doesn't meet that criteria, but you can therefore operate normally in that circumstance.
I think one of the big things is that people have been thinking that if they are in a segment of their business, for example, if you have a fitting service for clothes within your business, and they think that because that creates a kind of a personal service that then you have to categorize yourself as a closed personal service. That's not true. If your base is a retailer and you're a retailer, and that is one part of your service, that is just one part of it, and you can put risk or tools around that to mean that you don't have to implement things like a vaccine pass or a mandate or things like that for entry on those sorts of things. It's about it's keeping it simple. I think is probably retail's in a very good position that it can be doesn't need a pass, but there is obviously maybe some tools that people can implement to help out their staff to feel safe for their customers.
Just a question, team, around like if we have retailers who come through to us and if they need support for their staff in terms of dealing with how to deal with customers that who are frustrated and it's just taking it out on them, is there support or resources that we can link them through to RetailNZ or somewhere where they can get some of that support to be able to deal with difficult clients?
Absolutely. I think one of the challenges that we've seen right around the country over the last few months, well, the last couple of years really, but particularly over the last few months, is there's been this big upsurge in the number of customers who feel very angry about the world and want to take out their frustrations on retail workers. We have some resources and some online training modules that may be of assistance to people who are in that position. I'm not sure if they're actually live yet. Nigel, you may know the answer to that, but if they're not, they are live now, so you can get them, access them from our website, www.retail.kiwi.
We have another question in chat. Is it a requirement for retailers to notify customers whether they are using COVID passes or not?
Yeah, so there's no formal requirement for retailers to notify customers if they are not using vaccine passes, but if you are using vaccine passes, we'd certainly recommend that you put up a sign to let your customers know, because aside from anything else, your customers need to be ready with the vaccine passes to show you, and they need to understand what it is that you need them to do.
Awesome, thank you.
Another thing about the vaccine passes, which Greg, I'm not sure you talked about, is about the ability about a paper version that local chemists can help out your customers if they don't have a version or copy of it, in order to access the vaccine pass. So you can always, if someone is entering and doesn't have it or don't know how to do it, you can recommend them to pop along to their local chemist, and that should be able to help them out.
Awesome.
And is that free?
Yes.
Or will they have to pay for the service?
No, free service provided by the government. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Okay, cool.
Kia ora, Anna, Greg. What loopholes can you foresee some customers may try, and how can we be prepared?
Look, that's a really good question. I think we've seen over recent months a lot of customers do a lot of things to try and avoid wearing masks in store, for example. And we know that there is a very small but very vocal group of people who don't like the idea of being vaccinated against COVID-19. So it is possible that they may try and commit some sort of fraud with the vaccine passes and use either passes that have been created using Photoshop or something similar, or using someone else's vaccine pass. The system is not foolproof, and I guess all you can do as a retailer really is to be prepared with an iPhone or an Android device to scan the passes to confirm that they are valid. The passes have a date of birth on them, so if you wanted to, you could ask for some photo ID to confirm that that's the case. And obviously, if the date of birth was completely wrong, that may be a cause for suspicion. If you had someone with a birthday of the pass that said they were born in in the year 2000, they look kind of old like me. You know, you'd be right to ask the question, is this genuinely you? But I think most people will actually comply. The big issue is probably going to be customers who forget their vaccine pass or haven't got it organised, or whose phone battery has died, so suddenly it's not available for scanning. And those situations are ones where businesses using the vaccine passes are going to need to be prepared. And you know, I'd suggest try and be as understanding as possible with customers, but you are legally required to see those passes as they come in, particularly if you're a close contact service or a hospitality business.
Awesome.
Are there any insights or learnings that the hairdressers and barbers have experienced that you could share with us in terms of trialling the vaccination passes?
We haven't heard too much about the practical issues associated with it, to be honest with you. Aimie, chip in if there's something I'm not across, but I think the feedback I have had is more that there are some customers who are pretty upset that they suddenly aren't allowed to go into the hairdresser, for example. So it comes down, I think the big issue really is managing those customer concerns and trying to help them understand that the rules are there to keep everyone safe, and that they really just need to comply. And I think it's really useful too to let them know, as Aimie was just saying, that you know, if you don't have a smartphone, you can go down to the chemist and get them to print it off for you. I think it's any chemist that's offering the vaccinations is also able to do the vaccine passes for you. So that is one option. They can also ring the government's 0800 number to get a pass, but it's probably quicker to go to the chemist, I'd suggest.
Sorry, I think I'll just add on to the vaccine pass. Just like an experience, because I just downloaded my vaccine pass like yesterday, and when I tried to do it, it was really easy because I have a New Zealand passport, so it just needed my New Zealand passport, and then I could verify my account, and then I was able to request for the vaccination pass, and then I got it. But for my husband, because he's only a resident, so he still has a foreign passport, so I couldn't, there was no way that you could actually do it. So I called in, and then I asked, and then the lady said, oh yeah, he has to just call in, and then he just needs to have his NHI number ready, and yeah, and then they just sent it through his email. So just for people who don't have the New Zealand and Australian passport, yeah, they can just call them up, or just go to the pharmacy as well. Yeah, they're able to print it out. But yeah, just an experience.
Yeah, there will be people who have a foreign passport but do have a New Zealand driver's license, and they can also use the driver's license to get their vaccine pass online.
Yeah, we have neither of those.
You can also use those exact same mechanisms and channels to get one for your children who are 12 or over, because they'll also need one as well to be in the same sort of situations as you. So you can grab it online, or you can call up or go into the pharmacy and grab a copy as well for them. They'll just need the NHI, full physical address, kind of some proof of things, those standard things you need to prove your identity kind of thing, and their identity, yeah.
Just another question on the vaccine passes. I believe Greg's touched on it a bit, but is the vaccine pass card or print out on paper, please? Plus, how can we identify that all information is correct and not false?
Yeah, that's a good question. Now, the vaccine pass pretty much looks the same whether it's on a phone like that, or whether it's on paper. It's the same document. The only way of confirming that it is valid is to scan the QR code that's here. There's another app you can get called the New Zealand Pass Verifier app, which looks like this, and you push the scan button and scan the code, and it will come up green if it's valid. That's the only way you can verify that the pass is valid, but it still doesn't confirm that it belongs to the person who has it. The only way you could confirm that is to ask for some other form of photo ID.
And that's the reason why they've put the date of birth of it on it, is to help you with that checking protection.
Sorry, thank you. Another question is, can you clarify that retailers should not be recording the details of the vaccine pass, just citing it?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So as a retailer, well, I guess there's two parts to that question. As a retailer, you do not need to cite the vaccine passes at all unless you choose to do so, but you do need to cite the passes if you're a hospitality business or a close contact service. But if you are using the vaccine pass in your business, you do not need to record any details from it. Indeed, I don't think you're allowed to for privacy reasons. So the only thing that you can do, or the only thing you're required to do, is to cite the pass to see it and to use the app to verify a small number of them.
Awesome. And just on top of that, we should still be encouraging customers to do the COVID tracing. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Is there any more questions from anyone?
Yeah, I've got another one. In terms of the vaccination assessment tool, the simplified one to help businesses understand whether they should mandate vaccinations, when is that coming into play? And where would I find that if I owned a business to actually go through the criteria? Sorry, you may have said that.
Yeah, so comes into force officially, I think, in the middle of December. There are some regulations that are being drafted around that. So 15 December. You can find that tool on the MB website, and it's just that slide I showed you earlier is the key information that's available, and we can provide a copy of that to the trust if you wanted to circulate that as well.
Great, thank you.
We have a few people just joining us, but just wanted to reiterate that we'll be sending out this information and answers to any of the questions that were brought up. So those who are just joining, I believe Iseta and Susanna, if you wanted to if you had any questions that we might have already covered, just feel free to bring those up. We have another question though. I understand gyms have membership lists, so they only need to cite the vaccine pass once and cite the vaccine pass once, and after that, the member can use their membership card to enter premises. Can other membership-based setups create a system like that? I believe.
Yeah, so that's a good question. That's right. If you're a gym or something like that, you can tag in your membership database that people have got a vaccine pass that expires on a particular date, and that's on the basis that those people are scanning into your gym or other premises as they go and using your membership card. Other membership-based organisations can do something similar, but I understand that you're not allowed to set up a new membership database for the purpose of tracking vaccination status, and the reason for that is that I think the government's looking to avoid, I can't speak for the government, but my understanding is they're trying to avoid having multiple databases set up recording the same information.
And I think the key here is about the way that the gyms and memberships need to have consent from the person to hold that information on their account. So you will need to seek consent in that situation.
Thank you, guys. I hope that answers your question. If you need any more details about that, feel free to put that through as well. If there's any more questions from anyone else. Oh, yeah. Thank you. For beauty salons, can customers send a screenshot of their vaccine pass to us instead of carrying it with them?
No, I don't believe so. I think the customer needs to carry the vaccine pass with them because you need to cite it every time they come in. You're also, as I understand it, not allowed to hold records of that information in most cases. So it would create some privacy issues, I think, if customers were sending you copies of their vaccine pass. But I mean, I think it's important to remind customers who are a bit concerned about this that actually it's no different to carrying your driver's license or your EFTPOS card or your phone in many cases, and it is easy if you've got a smartphone just to keep a copy of it there.
Thank you. I think I have a question just around safety for retailers, seeing as some customers, are against all this. What would be your advice with kind of who retailers should be calling or contacting in cases like these? Is it just natural just to go to the police with this, or is there some sort of support that RetailNZ has for retailers?
Yeah, that's also a very good question. I mean, we're happy to sort of provide some advice on how to manage situations. We've got, as I say, some e-learning resources on our website that are available now to anyone who needs to access them. They can help you train your staff up to manage these difficult situations. There's no particularly good answer to any of this. The best advice I can offer really is to try and train your staff to de-escalate customers. It is a good idea to have signs up reminding customers what they need to do, so that if they get to the door and they think, oh, I forgot my vaccine pass, they can go back to the car and get it, rather than get inside and then get annoyed because they've suddenly realized that they need, or they might feel embarrassed. Ultimately, if someone gets aggressive or violent, the police are your best port of call. They're the only ones who actually have any powers to enforce anything.
And around the Auckland police themselves are very aware of how Auckland opens up, and that those levels could be a bit elevated. So they are aware, and they do have some extra people out in the community as well because of that reason.
Awesome. Thank you. If anyone else has any questions, or if you wanted to share some kind of issues you have opening up with the traffic light system, please let us know or put them through chat. But again, with this partnership, we hope to get any queries or issues you have and connect that through to RetailNZ on your behalf. So also feel free to do that too. I believe if nothing else, if there's anything else you wanted to share, Greg, before?
No, I think we've probably covered most of the issues. I guess if there were kind of just a couple of key messages I would leave everyone with, it's remember, if you're a general retailer, you do not need to use a vaccine pass system. If you're a cafe or a hospitality business or a close contact service like a hairdresser, you do need to use that vaccine pass system. And really just a really good idea to have some signs up to remind your customers what they need to do, because everyone's forgetful, and it will help defuse some of those situations that we might otherwise get into.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anything else done?
I just want to say on behalf of the team here at PPT, Greg, Aimie and Nigel, just a big thank you for joining in our talanoa tonight and sharing some of your knowledge and insights. It's really appreciative, and you can see in in the questions asked by the participants tonight. Also, thank you very much to the participants for taking time to join us. Continue to connect in with VPT if you have any questions, whether, you know, whatever support you need for your business, our customer support team will be available to support you guys. But thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. Talanoa tonight.
Mala.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.